respond to a dictator like President Trump, a bully like President Trump. He's the type of guy in school that would take your lunch money one day, take your toque off your head the next day, and then steal your running shoes. I'm not going to take any advice off a guy that's the king of bankruptcies. You know, your own people, President Trump, don't even like you. And they're going to speak loud and clear when it comes to the midterms. And if I was allowed to, I'd be down there door knocking.
What started as a fight over tariffs has now reached one of North America's Great Lakes. President Donald Trump says the United States is seriously considering changing the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America, adding another dramatic twist to the rapidly escalating trade dispute between the United States and Canada. Trump made the comment Tuesday morning on Truth Social, saying the proposed name change was connected to worsening economic relations with Ontario. According to Trump, the United States no longer expects to do as much business with the Canadian province if the current trade conflict continues. The comment immediately drew attention because Trump has pushed geographic name changes before. Earlier in his second term, his administration began referring to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America for U.S. federal purposes. But Lake Ontario is a very different situation because the lake is shared by both the United States and Canada. Lake Ontario is one of the 5 Great Lakes. New York borders the lake on the American side, while the Canadian province of Ontario borders it to the north. That means even if the Trump administration officially adopted the name Lake America for use by the U.S. federal government, Washington could not simply force Canada to use the same name. And that is why the bigger story here is not really the lake. The name controversy comes as relations between Washington and Ottawa have deteriorated sharply following the collapse of negotiations over a new trade agreement. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said negotiations broke down after what he described as last-minute changes to the American proposal. Carney argued that the new demands were unfair and economically damaging to Canada. Trump, meanwhile, has repeatedly accused Canada of benefiting unfairly from its trading relationship with the United States. The situation became even more serious after Trump threatened to raise tariffs to 50% on Canadian cars, trucks, automotive parts, and steel beginning January 1, 2027. That threat could have major consequences because the U.S. and Canadian auto industries are deeply connected. Vehicles assembled in North America often contain parts that cross the U.S.-Canada border several times before a finished vehicle reaches a dealership. As a result, higher tariffs on Canadian automotive products could potentially affect American manufacturers, workers, and consumers as well. Canada is now responding with tariffs of its own. The Canadian government announced retaliatory measures targeting approximately $27.6 billion Canadian dollars worth of American imports, equivalent to roughly $20 billion US dollars. Those tariffs are expected to affect a wide range of American products, including steel, agricultural goods, appliances, and other consumer products. Canadian officials say the response is intended to match Washington's actions and protect Canadian workers and businesses. The political confrontation has also become increasingly personal, especially between Trump and Ontario Premier Doug Ford. After Trump threatened additional tariffs, Ford responded angrily and accused the president of attacking one of America's closest allies. Trump then targeted Ford personally, mocking him and comparing him unfavorably to his late brother, former Toronto Mayor Rob Ford. Ford responded with insults of his own, calling Trump a bully and saying Ontario would not back down when Canadian jobs and sovereignty were at stake.
I've dealt with guys like you my whole life. And guess what? Y'all become losers because you're a loser. I have more courage, more brains in my baby toe than he has in his whole body. I've been in this game a lot longer than he has. I got skin on me like an alligator. And you think an insult from him hurts me? Well, bring it on, buddy. I'm ready. Bring it on. I have a lot of real estate on my ass, so he has a lot of room to kiss my ass.
But by Tuesday, Ford appeared to soften his tone slightly. During an interview with CNN, he acknowledged that the dispute had become too personal and argued that both countries ultimately need to return to the negotiating table. Ford said the United States and Canada are stronger when they work together, pointing to the enormous amount of trade that crosses the border every year. Ontario alone has major economic ties with American states through automotive manufacturing, energy, agriculture, and other industries. Ford also warned that fewer Canadians are buying American vehicles as political tensions increase. He argued that the trade conflict could eventually hurt American businesses and workers just as much as it hurts Canadians. Ontario also has other potential forms of economic leverage. The province exports electricity to parts of the United States, including several northeastern and midwestern states. Ford has previously suggested that energy exports could become part of Canada's response if the dispute becomes significantly worse. However, he said he would rather increase cooperation with the United States than restrict it, provided both sides can reach what Canada considers a fair trade agreement. That brings the focus back to Trump's proposed Lake America name. At this point, the idea remains a political proposal rather than an internationally recognized change. The U.S. government can establish official geographic names for use by federal agencies, but Lake Ontario is an international body of water shared with Canada. A decision made in Washington would not automatically change what Canada, international organizations, or other countries call the lake. So while Lake America is the headline grabbing attention, the more important issue is what this confrontation says about the relationship between two countries that have spent decades building one of the most integrated economic partnerships in the world. Factories, farms, energy networks, and communities on both sides of the border depend heavily on cross-border trade. If this tariff battle continues, it could mean higher costs for businesses, disrupted supply chains, pressure on workers, and potentially higher prices for consumers in both countries. And with Canada now responding with billions of dollars in retaliatory tariffs while Trump threatens an even larger round of tariffs beginning next year, the dispute could still become much more serious. The key question now is whether Trump's Make America proposal is simply another negotiating tactic designed to put pressure on Canada, or whether it represents a deeper breakdown in relations between Washington and Ottawa. What do you think? Is this mostly political rhetoric, or is the U.S.-Canada trade dispute becoming something much bigger? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more coverage of U.S. politics, Canadian politics, and major global political developments.